guess we're ready to start. Let's go ahead and get some intros cracking. I'm your moderator. I mix records and things, and a whole bunch of records. From start to finish. And then I mix the record afterwards. And backspin it. It's your boy Vitamin D. Yeah. Applause. Yeah. That's right. Make me feel good. There we go. Make everybody up here feel good. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about. To my immediate right, would you like to introduce yourself, or do you want me to go ahead and give you the Cornelius?
I got it.
All right.
Peace, everybody. My name is Opio. I'm a MC, producer from Oakland, California. Repping Souls of Mischief and Hieroglyphics. Peace.
What up, everyone? Peace, Bean. I've been in my basement and the studio for 25 years. I make beats, I mix records, I skateboard, I do graffiti, etc. Hip hop shit.
Peace, my name is Atlas, also known as Polaris. I am an MC and I rap over beats. That's what I do with beats. I'm from the Bronx and I'm just happy to be here.
I'm Luis Flores, aka BreakBeat Lou, Supreme Rock's record carrier. I've been carrying records for Supreme Rock for over 30 years. I'm a co-creator of a compilation called Ultimate Breaks and Beats. I was Writers in 72, B-Boy 73, DJ 74, Hardcore Digger 78, Producer 81. Currently DJing and producing, and I'm just a lover of what I call my life, which is the culture of hip-hop.
AKA living his best life. So smile about that. All right, let's get into it. A lot of us aspiring b-boy enthusiasts would love to get some insight on everybody up here seems to be a master at keeping it going, if you know what I mean.
By like still doing it?
Yeah, like by hook or by crook, you know what I mean? And still making a living for ourselves and things like that. So, which, you know, is tough, you know? I mean, we got a lot of history, like, just up here. We've all seen people more gifted than ourselves fall by the wayside. Like those that inspired us that nobody knows about. That was there with you when you was pause mixing on a dual cassette and all them old school things you were doing. And that applies to the MC side of everything. And the other aspects of the culture too. Like we've seen it also. Just to be here is a blessing and it's remarkable. I guess we can just dive into like, how is it managing your perspective? We'll start with the OG on that one. Like, cause I mean, I know you've seen some things that you're really disgusted with our culture, and I know you've seen it be what it's become as far as like driving American culture and stuff like that. So, you know, let's go ahead and dive in and get your perspective on that.
But I think the biggest aspect that I would say that has been lost has been the true love and the true perspective of the culture was birthed upon. The community aspect is almost nil to none in most cases. They're not really looking upon, you know, what does it bring forth to the masses, just a selfish kind of aspect. And I think the biggest thing is, even though, we were created a culture upon elements that were already in existence, but the best thing that I can say is like Grandmaster Cass said, we didn't invent anything, but we reinvented everything per se. So catching that, grasping that alone, and even though we are created upon something that's copied other stuff, I still think there's an element of creativity and an element of individual identification that's being lost in that sense, you know what I'm saying? And I think the perspective of having just the self-preservation aspect of life in the culture, even though we hear, even in front of this, you hear people saying, yeah, we're going to do this, the next day you're just going back to the same rut of the self-contained situation. I'm not intruding in my own horn in situations. I left the game in '95 because I saw the cesspool that it was becoming and absorbing everything, but I wasn't living. My passion was not really there, so for 12 years I was stagnant because I wasn't doing what I was doing. I left a lucrative job with making money, 401k, all that good stuff to come back to this.
Okay.
And the biggest portion was because my kids were growing up, I saw that they were getting caught up and they were losing perspective of what I knew and what I was humbly blessed to be a part of, and that was the hip hop culture. So I was like, I'm gonna come back to it, hook a crook, grind, invest in myself, so that I can bring forth what I feel is the foundation aspect of this was birth. So that's why I'm here.
That's what's up. That's what's up. To a lot of aspiring people that are just starting, if there's something there, and then just people that want to keep it going, like.
I mean, I'm always trying to do something new, even when I started, as far as experimenting with sound and such. I don't know if I've ever developed a sound myself necessarily, that I can think of. I'm just always building on one. And I'm still trying to find a sound as far as that. So, yeah.
Looking for the perfect beat, man.
I'd like to speak to that. Hip hop is in everything, and I think that the current generation has no perspective regarding the creation of it and where it came from and the purpose behind creating such a culture. And in any other art form, you have to study the people that came before you. So you cannot play an instrument if you don't know the great instrument, the greats that played that instrument before you. And in hip hop, we don't force that. We don't push that, that particular prerequisite for somebody to get into this. So if you're a DJ and you work among other DJs and you mention a premiere, you mention somebody that was doing it in the 90s or even in the 80s, and you have a young person in there and you don't introduce them, or you don't kind of quiz them, kind of probe them a little bit, like, who you study? Who do you know? So me as an MC, I worked with Sha-Rock, I've worked with MC Light, I've worked with Roxanne Shante. Sha-Rock, she put out an audio book, that's my voice. Because I feel like it's important for me as an MC to know who came before me, so that no one's ever gonna put me in a situation where they're like, well, what you know about this? Oh, let's run it down, I'll tell you what I know about it. And I think that because I don't move like, I created this, I invented this, I don't move in that space, I am able to move in any crowd, under any circumstances. So I can talk to the babies. I teach 5th grade. I talk to the babies and do this, and I can talk about whatever artist. And then I can go into a party where all of the artists are from the 80s, and they're like, oh, Atlas, what's up? Because they know that I respect the culture in such a way that they then embrace me and are willing to pass the torch in my direction.
Authenticity.
There's kind of there's another side to that too. Like, I I'm far from being a youth, so I can't 100% speak from the perspective, but I can reflect on when I was young, like in the hip hop game, right? When I first started DJing, which, you know, it was like mid-80s, like maybe 85, 86 is when I first was able to, where the OGs would let me touch the wheels. Like, I knew who African Bambaataa was, but I wasn't aware of all the contributions that he made to the culture. I didn't have all of his part tapes memorized and all that stuff because that's a little bit before my time. You see what I'm saying? I just know I wanted to be dope at it. So like, how long does a new artist have to understand those roots? You know what I mean? Because the way a new artist blows up now, it's like, it's real fast. They just know they like the wave, you know what I mean? Because it's all a vibration at the end of the day, right? Like, so.
I think the biggest misconception and the biggest issue that I see, and I get a lot of flack for saying this, but I'll continue saying it until I die, is you have to lead by example, right? I'm from the tier 1 first chamber, whatever you want to call it. I started in the first caliber of this culture that we know and love, hip hop. The biggest issue that I see is a lot of OGs do not want to respect the new generation. That's fact.
It's rampant.
That's fact. That's fact. And there's no way, especially you're gonna tell, you know, most kids that are right here now are over the age of 18. There's no way you're gonna tell another grown man how to live if you're not showing them by example.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So my situation is the same way I can play. I'm a DJ. There's been records in all my career that I hated in my life but still played. Like Glory Gain, I Will Survive, I hated that record with a passion. But I had to play it because I had to play it. Now me as a DJ, if I'm playing a gig and I see there's 20-somethings and maybe some 30-somethings in there, I'm gonna play the Drakes, I'm gonna play the Pandas, I'm gonna play all these records as much as I don't like them personally. But in the club environment, those records rock. I don't care who's playing. So you gotta respect that. And the thing is, in every era of hip hop, in the beginning when you first had Busy B, he was the crop, he's the #1. Kumo D came, knocked him out the box, and then Mo D was the level of measurement. Busy B was considered not a good MC. But today in day and age, they're both considered legends, right? Yeah. Then you got KRS, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim. And then you had Kid and Play, Kwame, and Salt and Pepper. That was happy rap, and then we had the culture rap, Nas rap. They were dope both. Now they were the Shun, Kwame's and the Kid and Plays, and now the KRS and the Eric B and Rakim and Big Daddy Kane are all considered legends, right? So why is it that we always have this greater mentality or greater than thou attitude for something that sounds different to us? And we tend to shun it away without giving it a chance because it doesn't seem the same way we want to look at it. We get in the sense that we are the only genre of music that has grandparents and grandchildren liking the same thing. And it's been like that for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So whatever's wrong is within, it's not from without.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that because I feel like people from my generation, from like I've always considered the golden era would be like 88. But a lot of people now, the newer mentality is that the golden era is the early mid to mid 90s. And a lot of people from my era, which is that's where I come from, the mid 90s, they just hate on everything. You know what I'm saying? Everything is new. Oh, his pants are too skinny. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's just super negative about everything, and I don't really think that they even have an idea of the talent that actually exists. Because there are a lot of younger people that are really being progressive, and it's not necessarily about mimicking a Souls of Mischief or mimicking, you know, whatever your favorite Nas or something like that. Like, I want to hear something new and inventive, and I feel like people are doing that, you know what I'm saying? And I think that us as old OGs kind of have to take some responsibility for our lack of knowledge. And you can't just spout I hate the new generation and what they do, because you don't really even understand that there's a lot of dope stuff out there. And I have this conversation, this argument with people of my generation, and I'm starting to see a lot of backlash from younger kids that are dope that's just like, man, fuck the 90s or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody from
why wouldn't they?
yeah, because they get dissed and talked about all the time, you know what I'm saying? And they are skilled craftsmen, in my opinion.
No, I mean, that's kind of par for the course. Them cameo fun playing dudes was hating on rap, and we was like, that ain't music, man. Like, you remember, all of them funk dudes was like, that ain't music. They wouldn't even acknowledge it as music.
And then the biggest thing you hear now, oh, this mumble rap. But this is what I tell you. How many people understood what James Brown was saying?
Yeah.
How many people understood for Snickers what they were saying?
Hey,
How many people understood Das Effects what they were saying?
yeah. No, it goes on and on. Like, things go in cycles, you know? Alright. Let's go around the table, man, and speaking of lead by example, what are we working on right now?
Musically?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been trying to shop beats for like my whole entire life, and it just never pans out as far as trying to get beats to major artists and such. I think my sound is a little like straightforward, but then take a quick left right when you're about to get to the sound that everyone like or something, as far as the industry goes. So right now I'm actually honestly only really working with my son, which is really, didn't plan it to happen like this, and he would be in the mumble rap fashion, I would say.
It sounds like a blessing to me, sir.
It's the biggest blessing ever, but being able to sit back and hold my tongue for 90% of the shit he's doing and try to understand it and try to fathom it or see where they're coming from, but you know, the longer I work with them, and I'm understanding where they're coming from. They want to do their thing, and they feel that hate from the older generation for sure.
We were all there. Like,
we were all there.
Like,
But
you gotta acknowledge that. You know
Exactly. And I mean, I don't want to ruin an opportunity with, you know, the younger generation too, as far as working with them. I'm just bagging on them and he said he wanted to do music, and he literally wanted to put out the first song he recorded. And I was like, yo, maybe we should like get in the studio for 6 months, you know, write something. He's like, nah, let's put out the first song. I'm like, all right, that's how you want to do it. You're putting yourself out there. And it relatively worked out for him, I suppose. He's been making music for like a year. And so as far as I'm working on that, and then just making beats every single night. You know, I know you have to do this, but trying to make my sound work for their sound, but not have a dude like D say, damn, like, you just make trap beats now? Or like finding a common sound that works for both what my ears tend to like and what his generation likes. It's a fun challenge, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
But I mean, the fact that you're willing to engage, like,
I really don't see why you wouldn't. Like, I feel like I would be missing a huge opportunity if I didn't, honestly. So,
right.
yeah. And ain't nobody at my door about beats, though.
Hey, I'm with it. It sounds like a blessing in the way to continue it.
Right.
Mixing and mastering still?
I mean, for what my ears can do, yeah, I mix up there, but mastering, you know, I'm no Barry Corliss.
Oh, man, shout out to the OG.
Exactly. Gallagher.
That's what's up. I know you two are in the lab, right?
Yeah, me and Lou been working, I don't know, it's been 2, 3 years, yeah.
The old fashioned way.
We've been working a lot. We don't.
The old-fashioned way. No emails?
Nah.
Whoa.
Studio all the time.
Heavy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he's been traveling a lot. I moved from Oakland to Los Angeles about almost 4 years ago, and I met Lou through Peanut Butter Wolf, and we just linked up and started doing music, and we instantly had a good thing going. And so the I don't have any problems with mailing stuff back and forth. I don't think that that's always a problem. I think there's something special that happens when you work with a real producer, not just somebody sending you a beat and you just figure it out from there. Like working with Lou, he has a whole concept behind the music and not necessarily where I should go lyrically, but what it should sound like. It's just very refreshing working with a real producer. I've been fortunate to work with people like Prince Paul. He's an actual producer that is with you, wants to be present in the studio, you know, has conversations with you that spark ideas for songs to be made. Adrian Young is another guy that I work with that has that same mentality. And so working with Lou, this has just been a blessing for me because I'm always trying to challenge myself and, you know, push to the next level and advance my style, for lack of a better word. And I really like the spirit of collaboration. I think that when you have that collaborative effort going on, some of the best music gets made. And we've just been making a conscious effort to spend as much time as we can with each other, always bouncing ideas off each other. And when we record, we do it together. I mean, I went to New York, I recorded in the studio with him. He's been coming a lot to Los Angeles. We've been recording as much as we can in the Bay Area in Oakland because we have a studio down there. And I think the results have been really good. Just from the actual, instead of doing the traditional kind of like, yo, just send me a beat and I send you back the verse on it, we've just been getting a lot of better results by actually being in person.
That's what's up. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be able to tell with the sounds too, because you can always feel it. Like I said, it's vibrations earlier, so. That's what's up. So are you like producing, like, are you dropping the beat in the lab, like old school, or?
What I tend to do is, every time we go, I mean, it starts off, you know, first beat, I give them the first beat. Out of that first track that we did, it inspired the next track for me. So as soon as it inspired that, then, you know, we did the second track, and then doing that second track inspired 3 other tracks. So then I came back to him with titles and everything, and then, you know, the thing that I gotta say about, I mean, he doesn't like that I tell him this, but he's probably one of the best lyricists I've ever heard in my life, in the sense that his cadences, his subject matters, his delivery, and the willingness to be produced. That's the biggest thing, the willingness to be produced. Like 90% of the titles that I give the songs, because he inspired them, it stays that title. Because again, that connection we have is incredible. And then, you know, there are a couple of features on the album, you know, from some incredible notables to a young kid out of, you know, straight out of Temecula, California, 21 years old, young kid. And we want to reach each and every demographic that we can with true hip hop. I'm not saying boom bap, I'm not saying anything, just true hip hop in the essence that it's supposed to be done.
Right.
And like I said, people are going to realize what it is when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into a project. You know what I'm saying? And that's been, you know, besides working with him, it has inspired me to do other stuff. Like I worked with another young lady by the name of Nesma Nefertiti. Her album just came out called the MC, hashtag the MC. Same kind of aspect. I've worked with another young kid in Ticana, same thing, you know, the hand-in-hand collaboration. And because of that, I've also, you know, been able to work with Babito Garcia on both of his Do It in the Park film, which I mixed and mastered, and the Rock Over 45, which I mixed the title track for. And this also stemmed from the what I call him putting me the battery in my back. So like, let's get into this mindset. There was a time, like 2 years ago, we were working and I got sick in December and I couldn't go to the studio, but him talking inspiration, I made 18 tracks in a matter of 2 weeks because of that kind of inspiration. And that's what it takes when you have a perfect synergy with an artist and a producer that are willing to do something special, not just for the accolades or all the money or whatever, just for the leaving a legacy of something that's going to be done.
Yeah, things to strive for. What you got for us, Lance?
Regarding what I'm working on?
Uh-huh.
I am a member of a freestyle collective called Run Like a Girl, under the mentorship of Tony Blackman. And I am working on my sophomore album, yet to be titled. Right now, I put a lot of energy into freestyle because I am a teacher in the classroom, and it gives me the opportunity to be able to relate to my students on another level, and to also deliver the content in such a way that, number one, they buy in, and number two, they remember.
Right.
Because that cadence and the delivery helps for the repetition that they need to be able to recall when it's test time or something like that. I also have a company called Intentional Movement that uses hip hop to teach children effective communication, because I think that any issue that we have as adults stems from not necessarily a lack of communication, but ineffective communication. And so I'm working diligently to take my program to different places that will allow me to teach workshops that give kids the tools that they need to speak into existence what it is they want and achieve the desired result. Because, like I said, I am a classroom teacher, and part of the issue that I run into is not the kids. It is the fact that there's so much emphasis put on the academic curriculum and then no emphasis put on their social interactions. And the babies are kind of being left behind in the conversation regarding social interactions. You hear a lot of social media, but interpersonal communication is where it's lacking. So the way we can sit here and have a conversation,
Right.
there may be another generation that sits here and types it all to each other.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you have a conversation that leads to a direct result, now we're talking. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's what I'm working on.
That's what's up. I like how we got hip hop has tentacles out here now. Like for you to be in the classroom is like, that's a long way from rap is not allowed at school, which is what my era was. Like, no, you can't have that rap in here. Like, you gotta take that out of here. So, like, that alone is incredible. So, you guys all seem to respect the fact that you need a tentacle into the young people's lives, right? So, I'm assuming, we kind of don't have a choice because we're all like classic minded, that we're coming with a classic sound. So, what's your insight on how to deliver a classic sound to the youth when the new music that comes out on a pop level is so far from the original formula? Yeah, like how? Like, or how are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, because you're still here, so there's a way. You see what I'm saying? So,
I mean, I try to. The only thing that honestly changed in a lot of the production value to me is drums. The background of anything I'm doing is relatively the same. It's melodic, I love bass, etc. But I could take any one of the beats that I've made in the past 3 weeks and change the drums, and it would just change the whole dynamic of them, honestly. I mean, that's the way to touch the kids. They don't want to hear a big, heavy snare anymore, sadly. Some kids, but okay, I'm talking about what I'm dealing with, sadly. But, it's the energy is the same, but it's just the meticulous little elements of the mix. It's a mix down thing too. I think the way records are mixed now, or you can mix a record how many different ways? 1 million probably, and have it come out sounding a million different ways. You can have the drums on top, the bass,
yeah, there are a lot of
Right.
I mean, one of the biggest
No, I know how
differences
you
I can point out is how voices are mixed. On classic records, the S's are never louder than the hi-hat. But on new records, the S's and T's are just as loud.
everything's out of the box. I mean, if something sounds good sonically, people might not like it in this era, in the youthful generation.
I know good is relative. I mean,
Exactly.
some people like the way MF Doom records sound. Some people like the way Drake sound.
Exactly.
There's no
Exactly.
right or wrong to it. You know, there's just as many people streaming, you know, MF Doom records as there is like the Chronic damn near at this point. It's just
For
kinda-
sure, for sure.
I'm more so like, how do you reach them? I know social media, of course, is a big aspect with it, but like you sound like you're willing to cater in some aspects, right?
For sure, in some aspects. Obviously. I mean, I'm not gonna not be me or do something I don't want to do, but I'll cater. I'm a
Right.
producer. I've always catered.
Right.
I mean, I've worked with penitentiary chanting rappers and the other side of it. So, like, you gotta cater sonically and from all angles. Yeah, for sure.
So as a lyricist that are directly touching the youth, like how much of your original like MC principles do you compromise in teaching them? Because you know at that point if you're rocking with them, they have their own idea of what's dope and things like that. And there's a fine line between killing somebody's dreams and uplifting them when you're in your position, you know what I mean? So how do you handle that?
So a couple of ways. Number one, kids are just adults in training. And so I recognize energy. I recognize that they need exposure as far as being exposed to something they may not even know they need. I'll give you an example. I love food. I love to cook it. I love to eat it. And my grandmother, she gave me hush puppies for the first time, right? And I looked at it and I was like, what is this? Like, it looks like a ball of mush. Like, what is this? And she said, just try it. So I tried it and I was like, I thought you loved me. She said, what do you mean? I said, how is it that I've lived my entire life and this is the first time you're introducing me to this? This is delicious, right? And so when I am thinking in terms of my kids, number one, I gotta get them buy-in, right? So like recently, you know, the Cardi B, the Money Beat. I wrote my own joint to it, took it to class, and I presented my lyrics over that beat because it was familiar and digestible for them.
Okay.
Then I spit something completely unrelated because now they're bought in, right? And they didn't know what they didn't know. So I gave them I slipped them some hush puppies, right? And they were like, how is it that I've never had this, right? And so now when I need to get them on board, now I have a buy-in, now I have a bargaining chip. And then if I feel like I'm losing them at some point, or if I feel like I need to refresh, I find another beat that interests them, and then I put my own take on it.
That's what's up. Tentacles. So in you guys' project, like I said, I'm assuming this is a classic angle in this thing, right? Like, how much, if any, are you compromising, like, or are you just like, I need to give them the raw, like, let me know what's best. All right.
I think, you know, as an established artist that people kind of look towards they want to hear certain things from me. And so like my fan base, you know, I don't really necessarily always cater to people like that, but I am aware of that and trying to just divert everything and do something that's just way too experimental and present that to the public. Not necessarily how I feel is the best way to really relate to people as a whole. I think that kind of sticking to my roots, for lack of a better term, that is appealing to multiple generations, you know what I'm saying, including kids. Because they're not necessarily checking for me to rap like the Migos or something. You know what I mean? Like that's not really what they're tuning in for. And at the same time, I'm not inspired if I'm not doing something that has some type of experimental angle to it. And Lou's production style is very diverse. So it's not just one type of beat. If I heard a beat, I couldn't pick it out and say that's a BreakBeat Lou beat, because he has so many different styles. And what we've tried to do is do many songs that don't necessarily have the same vibe. You know, there's an overall vibe to the whole entire project, but we try to do something new in every song. So we do have songs like we have, younger people that I'm rhyming with, and like his style is very complementary to what Lou's production style is and what I'm talking about and everything. So it meshes well together. I think the best way to describe it, I would say, is that we are doing what we've always done, basically. But also, it's like we have to, like I said, that experimental thing where you're trying to do something new and trying to push the envelope. That, to me, I feel like helps to communicate that what I guess a diverse audience would be listening to. Because I'm not going to just cater just to kids, but obviously I want people of all walks of life to enjoy the music. And I do like to be experimental. I also like to push the envelope. And Lou can speak to that as well.
See, my production style is what I call hip hop. Now, if we put Herb Bean at the epicenter of hip hop, there was 3 records that were played that created this aspect of what we know as hip hop. That was Babe Ruth the Mexican, Give It Up and Turn It Loose, and Apache, right? The Mexican is a rock record, so it's not genre specific, right?
Right?
Give It Up and Turn It Loose is a funk record.
Yeah.
Apache was from a fictitious band, which is not really a bunch of student musicians, and it was just complimentary to a soundtrack.
Sounds like soundtrack.
Exactly, so that's what it was. So hip hop as a culture is not genre specific. So with that, I say that sound-based, the way I produce, is strictly a vibe connection. Actually, the album, the title of it was Mess Around, the album we call hip-hop because it has everything that you can name from hip-hop, boom bap style to what I call R&B, funk soul style, to rock feel style, to even I want to say as, which I hate so much, this gun talk, 30 beats per minute style rap records, you know what I'm saying? My concept with music and the reason that we produce what we have right now is that at the bottom line with this, I'm a DJ, so my motto's always been keep them dancing. So every track on this album, you can dance to. And that's the difference with what we call the trap sound and this other so-called new boom bap. The whole new boom bap, if you're rocking something at 60 beats per minute, nobody's gonna dance to it, I'm sorry. The reason the trap music gets rocking the way it does is because at the club, it bangs.
Yeah.
So hip hop as a culture was a festive aspect of community get-together thing that people dance. So our album that's gonna come out is gonna make you dance regardless.
Okay.
And the thing is, like you said, you're not gonna, when you hear the beat, you're not gonna say, oh, this is an Opio track, or this is gonna be BreakBeat Lou track, because it's that diverse.
Yeah. I'll start nerding out and asking people what they're using and all this. I suppose I should just do it until somebody stops me. Let's go with that. 10, what? Oh, I thought you said till 10:15. I was like, whoa. All right, now I'm about to ask them how did they edit the alternate beats and breaks. What did you guys edit that shit off? Because sometimes the break went longer than the original, so what was that?
Well, that was the traditional way of editing. First it started on a Tascam 15-inch reels, a quarter-inch tape, and then we graduated when I started actually getting more sonically diverse. We went to regular studio, which was where they used to do jingles, I recorded stuff on multiple tracks, I mixed it down, and then I started editing on Atari's 5050s, half-inch machines, tape machines. So the reason our sound as warm as they did is because I actually re-engineered it, and then when it was being mastered, I set up tones so that the mastering engineer would know exactly how I recorded it, how I panned everything out. And like I said, one of the biggest compliments I ever received was from Hank Shockley, that he said even though he had the records, he wanted to sample ours because ours had a distinctive sound to it.
Having sample records back then, I can agree with that.
And then as far as what we use, we both use Ableton and I use MPC Studio, that's what I usually rock with.
Oh, okay. We were just talking about Ableton. What's your axe, Bean?
Pro Tools, ASR 10, MPC, and then the newest program I guess would be Reason. And I tried Logic. I like Reason. You know, I don't like the programs that give you too many options. I found myself not being able to get as creative when you're kind of stuck in a hole with I started with SP12. So I have 5 seconds and no disk drive. So you know, you gotta get pretty creative with that, and I definitely enjoy that. I think that pulls the best out of you. So I bounce around to keep it interesting. I'll go to the MP for a day, and then bounce that stuff into Pro Tools, and maybe open Reason up and try to play some keys over something or whatever. But yeah, I like to flip it up for sure. But I want to learn how to use Logic because I know it's dope, but I haven't used it yet.
I don't. They all kind of do the same thing. But
Pretty much. And these days too, it's like I left alone the digital age for so long in a sense that when I held on to the ASR 10 and MP for so long, when it came to Reason, I was like, this is basically all these other beginner programs that they started in the digital world, put into one, and it's like the MP and the ASR and all in one machine basically.
right.
Which again is a bit daunting in my opinion.
Yeah. Nah, simplicity is golden in most cases.
Can I ask a quick question?
Uh-huh.
So I'm an MC and I'm just interested to know, I don't mean to step on toes.
No, I love it. Come on.
But as producers, what draws you to an artist? What makes you want to produce music?
Authenticity, period. I mean, yeah, authenticity. You know what? How could you tell us? Like, what color do you prefer? If I like a color, I want to wear it. So it's the same with an MC. If there's just something special, I'm not specific to topic by any means. I'm not specific to walk of life. None of that stuff. If I like it, I like it. If it moves me, if it's authentic. If I know they're coming from an authentic place. Like my son's in a terrible position because he wants to talk a bunch of shit that he can't talk. I'm like, no, you can't say that. You never did that, bro. Like, I've never seen you out. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's like authenticity for sure.
I want to say like with Opio and like I said, I had met him like when he first came out like '93, but never connected with him until connected 3 years ago. And it starts off with a personality kind of energy situation. The first time I met him, met him at Stone's Throw, and then we went to. Then he saw me play in LA, and then we had lunch the next day, and it was like, it was 4 of us, we just chilling, and just vibing along, and he gave me a project that he just had finished, and I'm like, check it out, it's dope. And then I was like, I said, what are you doing right now? If you need anything, let me know. So he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing this tribute to Biggie, jump on and see how it rocks. Dude, this guy just demolished, it was seeming like him and Biggie were in the same room, the way he rocked it. I was like, let me do I was do a project. I said, can you do a project with me? I said, sure. So they started us doing one song, then from one song we turned to an EP. That was 3 years ago. Now we've gone like at least 15 tracks deep. That it seems every track we record, it just gets, deeper in this. And it is a personal connection more than anything else. Like I just had a conversation about the fucking here with him when he does the to be produced. I said, before anything, we have to have some kind of connection. I don't care how dope you sing or how anything. If I can't mix with you, I don't like it with you.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I can speak from experience and say, ain't nothing worse than, especially in the room when you're tracking vocals or stuff, like being with a dude that's a weirdo. I'm trying to say, oh, there ain't no kids in here. AKA a prick. Or just a weirdo in any kind of way, you know, it's like it's an energy thing, so.
It boils down to respect between the artist and the producer. If you don't have that mutual respect, like I don't step on his toes when he's writing, and I don't step on my toes when I'm producing.
We have a question from the audience.
I wanted to ask, as engineers who are seasoned vets and stuff in the game, like you were talking about how you had to break down the records and stuff, do you guys feel that the digital age has somewhat kind of messed up music in the sense of knowing the basics as far as how the analog world in the beginning times of music of creating a track, a real track, you know what I mean? Because now, you know, they think they shoot you your MP3 and we're good to go.
It's to me, it's the way that somebody like say us that we've been in a long time, how you approach it. I can make my sound today sound 80% as close as I was doing it back in the 80s and 90s. That's just my approach to things. The thing that I do say is there is no appreciative mindset with the new generation in the sense that if you look at when I was big, we make a record back in the 90s. For you to even begin to start a record, you have to spend $250 for a multi-track tape, right? You haven't recorded anything yet. You just bought a tape, $250. Then you have to rent a studio at least for 10 hours to track stuff down. So an average was $50 to $60. So at least 10 hours. So that's $500 and $250, that's $750 and you haven't done anything yet. So then when you record, now mind you, this is your recording, so let's say you get to do the production within the 10 hours and maybe some vocals. So let's say you may have to use another 5 hours of that, let's say another $250, and then you have a total of $1,000 and you're still only in the recording portion. Then when you get to that part, you have to mix the record. Before you mix the record, you gotta buy 2 other tapes, but it comes to $75 each. So that's another $150, so now you're in the hole for $1,150, and you get to mix a record. So now you gotta record another 10 hours, which is another $500, so that's $1,650, and that gets you to mix them. Now, depending on how many versions you want to do, determines how much money you want to spend. Back in the days, we had to do at least 3 versions, which is the radio version, regular version, either double instrumental. So that's another 10 hours to edit the stuff down. So then you got to $2,000 right now. So let's leave it at $2,000 alone. Right now, you can buy a MacBook Pro for how much?
Used, you can get that thing for like $900.
I
Yeah, and
think most people
yeah,
on Dell.
and you open up an iTunes account, and you can put your stuff on the internet. So you can easily open an account on YouTube, post your record, and you have more than 100 followers. You got 50 people that already heard your record. And mind you, you're not even mastering or anything. Back in the days, in order for you to do a record, and you have to at least be 3,000 in the hole before you actually pressed up a record. And then you press up 1,000 records. That's what you that you give it to people. That means you still have to grind and get records to stores on consignment to see what happens.
I mean, the only good thing that is weeded out the people that wanted to try it.
They don't understand the concept of sacrifice, of making music, because they never had that. So the appreciative aspect is a little less than what we have, and the passion may be a little less. Not that it's their fault, because when something's given to you that way, that's the way you're gonna go. But my thing is, when I am able to have these kind of forums, is to explain that particular aspect. Is the reason why sometimes we may be a little budget and egotistic about what we did back in the 90s is because we literally put blood, sweat, and tears into the work that we did.
To offer some perspective, and then we'll wrap it up. It costs you $3,000 to make a rap record. It cost them Cameo dudes 10 racks to make a rap record. And they was mad at the hip hop dudes. Like, see, these guys are spending $3,000 on their little 2-inch tape for them to rap over a beat we already made.
You think about it, it's like that, and Suck MCs was done both records in a 10-hour session. And it was probably one of the biggest singles they ever had.
Hey, it was only like 3 sounds on that thing.
Exactly.
So. Which is some more perspective. Any record past 84, before they had the bands in there doing that Sugar Hill stuff, that's digital actually. They was on SP1200s and SP12s and all that stuff, and those are digital samples, so.
But they still have the knowledge of the analog. That's what I'm saying. You have the knowledge. You have the like you have the basic understandings in the funk. Now it's plug in. You know, now it's I don't have to know how to do a proper mix. I don't know what a bad mix on a, you know what I mean?
It's not quite like that because it's like how hip hop is. It starts from a breakbeat, which means the foundation's already laid from something before us, right? These sample packs, people spent years chopping those breaks that he put on compilation records, and everybody chopped all those breaks. And when things went digital, those same breaks are being chopped in the sample packs for the kids to download. It's that generation before put that blood, sweat, and tears for a reason, and so these next kids can keep doing records and afford to be able to do these records. So it really kind of is passing on the torch, rather, it's just in a roundabout way. That's how I look at it. You know?
But if you learn that stuff, you're obviously many steps ahead of anyone that's just clicking a button ahead.
But that's the same with programming though. Like, some people know how to code, some people just know how to use the program really well. There's no right or wrong in all that, man. Just be dope, kind of. I mean, let's start there. You know? I hope our conversation enlightened you to go do something dope, as I was just saying. Because that's what it's really about. And I enjoyed this conversation. Thanks all of you for coming out and chopping it up with us. Give these pioneers their props. Thank you all for being